Showtime! Hello, folks. Just realized, hold on. Microphone. Helps to have that nearby. Welcome to the Weekly Spinner Rack. That is a show hosted by me, Chris, where we talk about comics and comic book news. Sometimes we draw, sometimes we do interviews. Today, we're keeping it simple. We're going to get into the news of the week. We're going to look at some of the newest comics that came out. And I had a great week. I got a lot of comics personally. Some that stood out as exceptionally cool were the new Bug Wars by Jason Aaron and Mahmoud Asrar. What else did I really like? I loved Where the Moon is Following Us is going, and also by Daniel Warren Johnson, Transformers. And look, by the way, we got a guest. Look who's here. Jack has decided to take a nap and just hang out with all of us. Isn't that great? He's usually so playful, but today he's worn himself out playing with his sister. But we got a co-host back here. And let me do some shout-outs to folks that jumped into the chat room. I'm just going to highlight you so that you guys can see your names because it's fun to be recognized, right? 50-mile-an-hour winds in Massachusetts. Geez, I was just chatting with my sister, and she hadn't mentioned that. Will I mention it? Sure, yeah. So let me pause here. Is this fair? In Tacoma, which is close to where I live, Tacoma, Washington, there are 3 comic book stores that I'm aware of. Stargazer, Atomic Comics, and a nice one called Destiny City Comics. It's been around for a little over 10 years at this point. And sadly, they've announced that they are closing at the end of this month. It was never like the closest one to me, so I didn't go every single week. But every time I went, they always had great stuff there. They featured a lot of indie stuff. I always appreciated that. Run by a husband and wife team. Husband is a local wrestler here, pro wrestler, Ethan HD. Great store, and I'm gonna miss it. Let's see, Game Over Club. I enjoyed Captain America too. I'll talk about that a little bit. Circuitron, nice to see you again. Contemporary Comics. Hello, Joe Dent, up late. There we go. David Davenger is giving me multiple titles. Last time I thought I was only up to 4, but it looks like I've graduated to Christopher Tropes the 7th. That's not bad. Irwin, I know that you guys down at the Long Beach Ink and Drink crew are doing Sewer Boys 2. I'm excited to hear more about that at some point. Hello, James. Always nice to see you, Owen and Moritaka. Let's see, who else? I don't know if I highlighted all these names. Scratch Comics, nice to see you. I know it's super late over there in the UK. Doom is... Oh, yeah, I'm excited to talk about that tonight. One World Under Doom. I kind of liked it. I kind of liked it a lot. Sorry to hear that you're not feeling well. Take that very seriously. You know, it can get bad. We forget because we're so used to it, but take care of yourself. Spider-Phil. Lovely names. Yeah, shout out to Destiny City for sure. It was really nice to have one that focused on indie. I've never played the Midnight Suns game. Sorry, can't speak to that. Almost caught up. Winston Gambro, nice to see you as always. I should start over. Hello, welcome. No, I'm just kidding. All right, I got to get going. It's awesome to have all of you here, though, as well as those of you who watch once the show is up and archived. That's what we call it in the biz. Let me get the news document up, and we'll talk about some news, including I'm going to plug something for myself. Get ready for that. What? And you know what? Let me adjust one thing about the layout. I'm going to move me up here, and I'm going to move that. I guess that's big enough. Wait, what just happened to it? I thought I just selected a custom layout. There I go. Okay. I don't know. That way, if I have like a super chat or something, it's not going to be covered up. All right, so we got the news. Let's go. Yep, you Beowulf is right. I have a backup coming up in Radiant Black, so of course I'm going to plug it again. Issue 32 that comes out March 26th, and I was just talking to another of the comic book stores in Tacoma. I'm going to do a signing. Why not? Stargazer, we haven't figured out exactly what time yet. We'll figure out those details. But the day it comes out, March 26th, I'm going to just be there for a while. I'll sign copies of Radiant Black if anyone wants me to. They'll also have my Vampirella cover. They had ordered some of those, so they've got some of my custom Vampirella cover. And I'll probably have one or two of my older comics for sale at whatever sort of table I got. So if you're anywhere in the Pacific Northwest, would love to see you. Just thought I'd throw that out there. But if you're not, I hope you'll consider asking your comic book store to order you a copy of Radiant Black 32. I don't think we've hit final order cutoff, so if we can bump the numbers up, maybe I'll get to do some more stuff. Hey, it's my sister. She's feeling a little under the weather, but she still stopped by. Thank you, Jeannie. I appreciate that. Let's see. You'll be working security. No photo. No, I want them to take photos. Seattle's all right. I'll have to work on putting that together, the Comic Tropes Criterion box set. All right, people didn't come here to hear me plug my stuff. They came for new comic book news. Will Marvel dig up Gwen Stacy's grave? That's certainly what they seem to be implying. So Marvel released this teaser image this past week. That's by artists Paco Medina and Maury Hollowell. They also used the tagline, they being Marvel, nothing is sacred. So they've at least got a sense of humor about whatever this is, okay? We see Gwen Stacy's grave. We see a shovel. Who's Gwen Stacy? Not everybody reads comics. Spider-Man had a serious girlfriend before he ever married Mary Jane and then annulled his marriage thanks to a deal with the devil. He was dating Gwen Stacy. She died all the way back in 1973, over 50 years ago. Over 50 years, they've kept her dead. Now, they've had, clones and alternate universes, like Spider-Gwen is, Gwen Stacy from another universe. But they haven't literally brought her back from the dead or said that she didn't really die. Will they bring her back? Or what is going on here? I really don't know. Hey, thanks for the support. Thank you, Steve. Playing that Fortnite, saying hey to the gang. Well, glad you could do more than one thing. I appreciate it. There's certain people that have stayed dead in comics for a very long time. Uncle Ben, right? That's Spider-Man's origin. It would be very strange to bring Uncle Ben back. Gwen Stacy's been dead over 50 years. Bucky, Captain America's sidekick, was treated as dead from the time that Captain America was brought back in the 60s in Avengers. Like, they retroactively said that he died in World War II, but that was done in the 60s. And then obviously in the 2010s, 2007, 2008, somewhere around there, Ed Brubaker brought him back. And that actually went over well. People were like, you can't ever bring Bucky back. Well, I would say it's actually a fantastic retcon. One of the best retcons ever, bringing Bucky back as the Winter Soldier. But who knows, man? What are they doing here? They're teasing us, obviously. No idea whether they'll actually bring her back or if they're just sort of teasing it. Maybe Spider-Man just gets a new enemy called the Grave Digger, who just digs up his loved ones. He's just going to play with the Uncle Ben and Gwen Stacy's skeletons. Probably not. I probably would say the odds of that are low, but who knows? That's another one that has been dead a really long time. The original Captain Marvel. There's been other people to take up the Captain Marvel mantle, but the original one, he didn't die in some big battle. He died from cancer. And I think that that's a serious enough death that was treated with respect that other writers don't want to undo it. you know? So who knows? Who knows? Bucky just walked off his death. No, that was a great retcon, though. It really was. I mean, maybe. I don't know that that would be much of a story, but who knows? It does seem like there is a trope, you could say, that people in superhero comics do not stay dead. You know, I kind of agree. There have been some great stories with Jean Grey, no question. Like since they brought her back. If they had kept her dead, though, I think that that might have carried a lot of weight, and it might have been good for Cyclops as well. Who knows? Moving on, though. Moving on. So some interesting teases there. Let's give you some updates on Diamond. Obviously, I've been following this because whatever the fallout is with Diamond distribution, it's going to shake things up in the industry. I would say that there's some somewhat positive moves since this was originally announced. But let's see. So the first thing is that some of Diamond's assets are going to go up for auction soon. Bleeding Cool also reported that there were a lot of parties interested in this, and they had to sort of register themselves and get filtered down. And right now, there's about 30 different parties that have signed non-disclosure agreements that are looking into potentially buying Diamond or a bunch of Diamond's pieces. They sort of are doing their due diligence on what they consider Diamond's value to be, and the party. The legal firm representing Diamond is making sure that these are companies in good standing that are, like legit creditors that could buy them. You did catch it. Thank you for jumping in. So, what else? Here's a timeline of some of the things we can expect. There's a bid deadline where if you're interested in potentially doing this auction, you're going to have to get your bid sort of registered by the 19th, and then you'll get approved, and you could even go higher than your original bid, but you want to put that in. There's the auction itself is going to happen on the 24th, and then something called a sales hearing 2 days later, where I guess they just sort of work out the details on that. I'm not an expert in auctions or companies being broken up, so maybe you want to do some reading yourself on whatever a sales hearing is. I couldn't quite understand that part. Here are just some of the assets that are up for bid, though. Okay. There's, of course, Diamond Comic Distributors. That's the arm that distributes the comics to comic book stores. There's Diamond Book Distributors, and as it sounds, they distribute books. Alliance Game Distributors, they had a stalking horse bid from some game company in Canada, I want to say, but they distribute game supplies, and I understand they're a profitable division. Collectible Grading Authority is sort of their take on doing a CGC thing. Fandom World Division, pretty new. That was, or I guess technically still is, a website that sells stuff direct to readers and consumers. It's like almost an online convention type of site where people can sell stuff directly to people, no middleman. Free Comic Book Day. Yeah, technically Diamond owns the website for that and have in the past handled most of the distribution. Free Comic Book Day is definitely still planned to happen this year, but I know for a fact that Lunar and Penguin Random House are carrying a lot of the actual comics. Let's see. For $30, I would say, yeah, you know what? You can possibly get in on the Collectible Grading Authority. Yeah, you might be able to. I don't know. Let's see. What else? Diamond Select Toys and Collectibles. They've made toys before. Gentle Giant, just to be clear, also makes toys. Iron Guard Supplies, boxes, bags, that kind of stuff. And of course, Diamond Comic Distributors UK. Now, they were already an existing distributor based in the UK that distributes to Europe. And they are a profitable division. Diamond bought them, but they're still profitable. So A lot of different aspects that are going up for bid in March. And my understanding is there's a lot of companies interested in buying them. So there's a good chance that Diamond will basically continue just under new ownership, but who knows? What asset am I going to bid on? The actual diamonds. I feel like diamonds still have value, so I'm gonna put in. See, I've got about $53 to my name right now, so I was thinking, like, let's see if I can get like a piece of a small diamond, and then I could maybe like wait and sell that, make up to $60, $72. Be nice, be good. With that kind of profit, I could buy maybe an egg for my wife on our anniversary. Our wedding anniversary is next month. It would be lovely to get Chrissy something expensive and valuable these days. Like, if I had $72, maybe I could buy her an egg. Jokes! Timely jokes! Diamonds are forever! That's a James Bond song. All right, let's see. A few other changes to distribution that I just want to mention. Ben Dunn is, the creator of Antarctic Press. He's done books forever, like, what do you call it? Ninja High School, right? Stuff like that. And he has published other people's books too. Well, he's been posting very openly on social media, and I recommend basically just looking him up if you want more insight into how some of these distribution changes are affecting small press and indies. But he's been talking about it, and he posted this week that he's in touch with Massive about their new deal where, like for a $500 listing fee, you can have your books distributed through Lunar, but technically within Massive's deal. And there's a bunch of weird working parts to that, but yeah. Well, if we had the money or the time, yes, we would love to go back to Japan, since Chrissy didn't get to do anything in our Japan trip a couple weeks ago because of how sick she got. She didn't get to get out of the hotel at all. So, and then we were in the hospital, and then we rushed home. That was rough, but she does deserve something like that. And then one other thing is that Bleeding Cool said that they've heard reports that UCS comic distributors are potentially looking to grow. UCS, we last really heard when the pandemic was hitting, and DC went with UCS and DCBS, which eventually became Lunar, or what we know as Lunar today. These days, UCS distributes things like the subscriptions for Marvel and DC. There are still subscription services. They deliver the complimentary copies that pros get. So supposedly the Bleeding Cool says they're looking to grow, get more mainstream. Maybe they'd be somebody that could take over some of the indie books that need distribution. An episode on Ben Dunn. That's an interesting idea. He has, a long history. I'll have to think about it. They say Diamond is currently worth somewhere between 2 and 3 dozen eggs. Wow. All right. I had no idea that we were talking in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. All right, moving on from distribution. Let's talk about something fun. We've got some hints at the DC Absolute Comics crossover that was probably going to be inevitable. By the way, this is an actual variant cover for Absolute Flash by the writer of the book, Jeff Lemire, also an artist. It's an homage to a famous cover. I can't remember off the top of my head. I should have looked it up if it was like, Carmine Infantino. But there's one where the Flash is like, stop. If you don't buy this book, I'll die. I was like, that's a lot of pressure on a kid. That's a lot of pressure. Look at this little kitty. He's so soft. Oh, my little buddy. All right. So Absolute Flash is set to debut next month in March, alongside, to be clear, 2 other Absolute titles, Absolute Martian Manhunter, Absolute Green Lantern. Absolute is doing great. Jeff Lemire talked about some of this stuff that we can expect on his Substack newsletter. He was specifically answering questions from readers. Well, maybe that's to come out of like what I'm going to talk about here. So, regarding a question about a potential crossover with, Absolute Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. Here's his answer. Scott, Kelly, Jason, Dennis, Al, and myself, the writers for each of the books, and myself meet every other week virtually to plan out the larger Absolute universe. We are thinking far ahead, and there is a plan in place for these characters to eventually connect. I don't think that's necessarily a huge surprise, but that's kind of cool. Oh, thanks for the yeah. Okay, it's homaging Flash 163 by Infantino and Giella. Very cool. Well, I think that these characters are starting to sort of grow. Who knows how long until the exact crossover, but we've got some hints towards connective tissue is what I'm talking about. And that is, Lemire says the seeds of the connection will start in issue 1 of Flash, and then the free comic book day book that DC's putting out will actually have all of the DC Absolute characters in it. Now, he didn't necessarily say that they are meeting. He just said that they're all in it. So I don't know exactly what that means. Oh, Absolute Green Lantern got delayed from late March to early April. You know what? In a way, that's okay, because 3 new books in the Absolute universe in 1 month is kind of a lot. Yeah, why not just reboot all of DC again? Why not just reboot it? I will say, so far, I am enjoying the Absolute universe a lot. We're going to talk about one of those books tonight. Pretty cool new issue of Absolute Batman. Scott Snyder and Nick Dragotta. Hey, look, a little support. Thank you, Lord Luke Lightbringer. What are your thoughts on the Penguin show? Been a little while since that came out, but I thought it was a great crime show. It was very grounded. I mean, nobody was doing any like kung fu or anything in it, but I felt like it was pretty respectful to the modern day interpretation of characters from, like, say, the Falcone crime family, Penguin himself. It was an interesting interpretation of Sophia that definitely, by nature, virtue of the fact that Sophia Falcone hasn't been in tons of comics, they grew her a lot. And who's that actress again? She did a great job playing a pretty complex character. Anyway, the performances were great. The twists were good. I like that show quite a bit. Can't remember the name of the actress right now. As soon as I hear it, I'll go like, oh yeah, but I'm bad at names. You storyboarded on the Penguin. That's so exciting, Chris. Great job. Like, I will say, everything was super clear. Yeah, it was great. Kristen Milotti, exactly. She's so good. All right, moving on. Some more DC news? Yeah. I don't know how much of this is news and how much is speculation, but Damian Wayne seems to have quit as Robin, or being about to quit. Issue 18 of Batman and Robin, that's the one that came out this month. Damian told his dad that he does not want to be Robin anymore. He says he wants to become a doctor, like his grandfather, Thomas Wayne. So my question to you is, do you think that this is temporary, like a tease, like, oh no, we're going to lose Damian as Robin? Or do you think that they legit could give this character a new direction and slot in, one of the many other Robins that we've got to team up with Batman? I got to say, I feel like it's a tease, and he's going to stay being Robin. I do. But I kind of like the idea a lot of him deciding to go in a completely different path. I thought that was an interesting idea. And then I was like, oh yeah, of course. The Waynes have a huge history of being doctors. That would make a lot of sense. Dr. Damian Wayne. Yes. Dr. Damian Wayne here on the days in our Bat Cave. I've got nothing. I tried. He's going to be Daywing. He operates during the day. Oh no, we're losing Robin number 7. Oh no. Probably temporary, but it would be amazing growth for Damian. That's what I was thinking, is it would be amazing. Oh, geez. How did I miss the obvious? The Damians of our lives. I think that was sort of in the back of my head and it wasn't coming to me because I was using Days of Our Lives. All my Robins, Gotham General. Hey, you guys are good. It's almost like if you just listen and you don't think about performing, you can come up with funny stuff. I need to let it wash over me and use my improv training. I did improv with the great Ken Jeong, star of, what's that show that he's on these days? The Masked Singer? The Singer's Mask? No, The Masked Singer, right? I don't know. Oh, man, actually, that would be really cool if, 20 years from now, the character's aged up a little and you just sort of, make him, like a military doctor or something. The Californians. Gotham's on the 405 and it's jammed. You got to take Springer Avenue over to Finger Boulevard, and that's the best way to get downtown. I love the idea of a Robo-Robin. You replace you with a machine. Oh, I like the idea of him being a trauma surgeon, then getting pulled back in, having to save a member of the Rogues Gallery. Oh, man, that would be cool. I mean, right now, you're like, I guess you do that with a character like Dr. Midnight at DC, but I think that would be cool. I don't have regular TV or cable or anything these days, so I actually haven't really watched the show. Don't let Ken know. I don't think he'd be mad at me. I don't think he cares. No, I had a Valley Avenue accent, Gene, if that even is your name. Oh, yeah. All right. DC signed Tom Taylor, as you can see by Tom Taylor's Twitter post. Excited to share that I've signed a new exclusive with DC Official. Can't wait to share what else we're working on. So if you don't know, Tom Taylor has had a lot of success at DC. Injustice, Deceased was successful. Nightwing, what a huge run. Him and Bruno Redondo, great run. Dark Knights of Steel is popular. There's other stuff, but no surprise there that DC would want to hang on to him and sign him to an exclusive. That just means they're going to have to provide him with work. They're going to have to. Yes, when you get the exclusive, you're allowed one photo and one handshake with Jimothy Lee. I don't know. Yeah, 2 mystery projects. Because see? Or maybe they're both Riddler books. He's writing Riddler issue 1 and 2, and that's all that means. It's not a mystery. What else have we got for... Is there anything else for DC? Oh, I got it all at once. The Black Lightning creator came out as trans this week, and it's kind of amazing. So, Jenny Blake Isabella, creator of Black Lightning, is the person I'm talking about, posted to Twitter and Facebook this week. She's coming out as trans at age 73. Still married, still has a good relationship with the kids. 73, and she has decided she is trans. And yeah, it's a kind of a surprise for somebody to come across that discovery about themselves at that age, but a lot of support. They posted some details to Facebook. Preferred name, Jenny Blake Isabella, though I will be writing under both that name and Tony Isabella. Conventions, I will be presenting as Tony Isabella for most of this year's events. Said that she does not consider Tony a dead name because of all the writing she's done under it, so it's now more of a pen name, an author name. There were tons of supportive comments when she posted this by pros. Lots of fans, but lots of pros. Joe Duffy, Larry Hama, Bill Sienkiewicz, Gail Simone, Dan Parent, tons of people. It was really, really interesting. And she's been posting a few little updates every couple days on how that's going. yeah, yeah, it is a tough time. So, who knows? But I don't know why. She hasn't like shared everything. Some of this is a very personal thing, but she wanted to share it. She's changed her look a bit, and it's never too late. Sorry, never too late, I guess. Yeah, as long as that's what she's comfortable with, and this is who she is, and she seems to have the support of both her work peers and her family. I feel like this is a net positive. That like it's probably something that she's gonna get like some pushback from certain fans that aren't with it. But pretty amazing, pretty amazing. I was surprised. I never expected that. I am friends with Jenny on Facebook. Talk a little bit. Definitely have considered and talked a little bit about someday doing an interview, but I didn't know about any of this. Yeah, great for her. Great for her. Anyway, we'll have to see. She does conventions still, but not a ton of interviews. Always been a little shy with interviews in general. If you look at the history, because I did an episode a long time ago about Black Lightning, and learned a lot about Tony, Isabella, and she has always said that she is the full creator of Black Lightning, like as in the idea came fully formed and is credited as such by DC, even though, of course, there was an artist, Trevor Von Eden, great artist. Trevor Von Eden would make a really interesting episode of Comic Tropes, but has always just said created and with, but not by, not co-creator. Anyway, and the middle name there, Blake, is named after Don Blake, the original alter ego of Thor. So there is some comic book nerdiness in there. I have no idea how many, but there's more every day now. Yeah, Roy Thomas did try to get credit for creating Black Lightning. Unfortunately, it was proven that he was working at Marvel and not DC, and so that one didn't fly. Sort of related. So, the Trump White House had claimed that the organization, we have a government organization called USAID, okay? And it is designed to help sort of developing or third world nations sometimes, or at least just nations that have like issues with things like poverty and education. We're designed to like help with stuff like that to potentially stabilize the world. That's the benefit to us. Well, the Trump White House had claimed that USAID had been used to fund a transgender comic book in Peru, but Snopes has completely debunked that, okay? I don't love talking about, politics, but this is just such an egregious lie, and I just wanted to clear it up because they did their due diligence, okay? So we've got this Department of Government Efficiency, and it announced that it was going to shutter the U.S. Agency for International Development. The press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, claimed that the agency provided a $32,000 grant to help fund a transgender comic book in Peru, okay? Not at all true. Here's what happened. The U.S. Department of State, they have a totally different organization. They have their diplomatic and consular programs. They did provide a $32,000 grant covering 2022 and 2023. So it was for 2 years, and it helped fund the second of 3 issues of a Peruvian comic book series about a band of superheroes titled El Poder de la Educación. The U.S. Embassy in Peru presented the comic book series in connection with a student cultural exchange program between the U.S. and Peru. And guess what? The issue of the comic has a gay protagonist named Alex. No trans characters at all. So That was just somebody, like, look, it's a lie. It's not true at all. It's not even. It's just, I wanted to put it out there that if you hear them say, like, oh yeah, it's good that we're closing USAID, they waste money on, like, a trans comic from Peru, it's not even close to true. It came from the US Department of State, and it was an educational comic. It was just an educational comic. It had nothing to do with, like, trans. They're just, I feel that trans people are really being targeted hardcore in politics these days. And the actual amount of people that are trans is super, super small percentage. So it just feels so unfair. It feels like punching down. That's something, like, when I did, like, stand-up and stuff like that, you learned real quick that it's funnier when you punch at, like, a big authority figure as compared to punching down at somebody that's at a lower or smaller level than you. It's not funny to pick on someone. That's just me. I'll go back to something a little more. Here's a fun one. Let's talk about the wildfires. No, in all seriousness, though, this is kind of cool. We had already heard that Mad Cave was quickly putting together an anthology comic to help recovery efforts from the devastating wildfires down in LA. It has been the most expensive natural disaster in American history. So even though it's now under control and stuff, the amount of homes and stuff that were devastated is humongous. You could definitely argue that maybe we should have had better preparation in some levels. I don't know. I have no idea how to handle any of that, but it's devastating to a lot of people. So now we've got some actual firm details. We've got a cover here. Mad Cave said that this anthology is going to come out March 19th. So this is a very quick turnaround. All profits are going to relief efforts for the LA wildfires. And this week, we got to see a ton of the creators announced for this. Barbara Kressel, Brian Azzarello, Brian Michael Bendis, Christos Gage, Dan DiDio, Daniel Kibblesmith, Frank Thierry, Greg Pak, Jimmy Palmiotti, Jody Hauser, Marv Wolfman, wow, Paul Cornell, love that guy's writing, Rob Den Blaker, Sina Grace, Stephanie Phillips, Steve Orlando, big name these days, Alex Cormack, Allison Sampson, Amanda Connor, Christian Ward, Geraldo Borges, Ian Churchill, Michael Avon Oming, lovely to see you in there, Mike, Nico Leon, Ryan Gonzalez, Salvador LaRocca, Sammy Cavella, more to be announced. More to be announced. Where was Iceman? Yes, we could have used Iceman or even Hydro Man. Anyway, I'll probably be picking that up because why not? I love a bunch of these creators. If the profits go to a good cause like this, I like comics. Why not? I'll pick it up. My wife was engaged to Paul Cornell. He was, and I'm not being hyperbolic and asshole. Wow. I had interviewed him back in the day for a podcast, and he was kind to me, and I'm a Doctor Who fan, so I had appreciated his work there, but I don't know him as an individual, so I can't speak to anything like that. Yeah, in the real, well, and that is the thing about superhero comics, that you kind of come. Sorry, turned myself off for a second. It's really hard with a superhero comic set in something that mirrors our world to actually have them be effective, you know? They always have to go up against things like supervillains because if they weren't, why aren't they solving real world problems? You can have things work as metaphor, and you can have really cool action and adventure sequences. You can have cool melodrama between and relationships that can, like, mirror the real world. But it becomes frustrating, I think, as you get older to try to find any reality in a superhero book, because it's like, why aren't they solving natural disasters and poverty at the least? At the least. It's whatever. Oh yeah, we have real world supervillains, but we don't have real world superheroes. All right. Going back to this. Oni And Mad Cave just signed a bunch of new employees, and I just wanted to shout it out real quick because it's nice to see some smaller publishers doing well financially. Oni was having trouble a couple years ago. They had cut out a bunch of conventions, you know. So Mad Cave hired Sarah Brunstad from Marvel. She's an editor, and they hired my friend Troy Jeffrey Allen. He did marketing stuff for Diamond. Obviously, they've downsized, but he got picked right up by Mad Cave. I think Troy really understands comics. I supported a Kickstarter that he did just several months ago about Afrofuturism. Great guy. And I was really happy to see that he got hired by Mad Cave. Good for him. And then Oni hired they promoted 3 people, but they also hired 5 people. They hired Allison Gronowitz from Boom as a senior editor. They hired Elise Ramo from Boom as director of reporting and special projects. Megan Christopher from Boom as director of operations. And they hired Melanie Ujimori from Seven Seas as a pre-press lead. That makes me think that Oni might be getting into doing more manga potentially, because that's Melanie's expertise. And they also hired Azat Sayadi as an assistant editor. She's been, I think, an intern at DC, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Good for them. This is so exciting. I'm sorry that I didn't have the bullet points come down in order. I'm just overwhelming you with a bunch of text. But look, every 6 months, Brubaker and Phillips these days, instead of putting out monthly comics, they just put out the full story as a hardcover graphic novel. I think it's awesome. It's a good value. It's a complete story. But this is exciting to me. They're returning to their crime anthology series, Criminal. Makes sense because we know that we're getting a live action show, but these are new stories. This is called The Knives. It's going to have 3 stories that connect somehow. We've got cartoonist Jacob Kurtz. We can guess who that's homaging. Goes to Hollywood in an era of peak TV to work on an adaptation of his comic strip, only to find himself caught up in the life of his aging aunt and the vultures circling her estate. Angie was raised at the Undertow, but that's a bar in this series. But now everything she loves has been taken from her. She's on the streets with vengeance on her mind, her eyes set on the city's kingpin. And finally, Tracy Lawless. We're getting Tracy back. He is home from the special forces, finally a civilian again, but he's in bad shape, and the city has always brought out the worst in him. 200 pages this September the 9th, $29.99. If you game that out compared to what a comic from DC, Marvel, Image costs, they're generally about $5, we'll say, for 22 pages or so of story. So that means you're saving a lot of money when you can buy a graphic novel with 200 pages for $30. Great. Love it. Yep. Striking while the iron is hot. Criminal is so good. Take my money now. Absolutely. Oh, read it. It's so good. It's so good. Another masterpiece. Probably. That's my opinion. Yeah, they just mean lots of adaptations and prestige television. That's what they call this era of TV. Hooray for more Criminal. You know it'll be great. That's my experience. So consistent these guys are. I knew that someday they'd come back to Criminal and also at some point Reckless. I'm happy to take whatever they want to give, though. I'm excited to see another Criminal story. Cool thing about Criminal is you can read any story arc and it gives you a complete story, but then there's background characters that maybe become a more prominent character in a different storyline and stuff. It's a connected world, but it isn't always chronological. It can jump around in time, focus on different characters. Hey, thank you. Thanks for all you do. Criminal. I'm just seeing this now. Stoked. What are your top 3 Brubaker Phillips titles? That is a really tough question. If you're talking individual issues, I'd have to have them in front of me so that I could go oh, this story arc or that one. But I'll say the Coward story arc on Criminal. Coward is really cool. I will say Sleeper, which was through Wildstorm. It was set in the Wildstorm universe. Undercover supervillain. His handler ends up in a coma, and so nobody else knows that he's working undercover. That's really cool. Third, I want to say it'll be something from Reckless. I think there was one with like a cult, and I'll choose that one anyway. But you ask me tomorrow, and I might say Fatale, or what was the one, Kill or Be Killed, I really liked. I like everything they've done. Blue Summer, I think it was called, or Cool Summer. Anyway, like I say, I need to have them in front of me. Fun question, challenging. Kill or Be Killed is so cool. Sleeper has twists and turns like you wouldn't believe. Batman Gotham Noir is Brubaker Phillips, isn't it? I don't remember. It's not coming to me, so I don't want to speak to it. I don't know. Look at this little boy. He is being a good sidekick to us today. I just want to pick him up and snuggle him, but then he'll run away. Yeah, Miss Misery from Sleeper. Fascinating, fairly complex character. Cat cam, please. Jack, they want to see you. You want to get up close? Should I pick him up and put him near the camera so you can see Jack? Because after that, he'll definitely like just be ready to run around and play with his sister. What do you think, bud? You want to sleep or you want to say hello? He's probably going to get up soon anyway, because I can hear Lily and Chrissy moving around up there. So here we go. Here's my handsome little rascal. There you go. Oh, my big boy. Oh, yeah, Incognito. That was good, too. No question. And the fade out. Oops, make myself full screen. Hey, Jack, you want to come back? Sorry, everybody. Let me see the baby. All right. We'll do a few more pieces of news. DeWanda Weiss is going to star in a Killer Bee adaptation. Wait, what's this? Sweet Fancy Moses. It's a tropes verse. In an ocean of madness, I appreciate your sea of tranquility, a.k.a. nerd stuff that will save us all. That's very kind of you. I know I haven't released the latest Comic Tropes episode in a minute. Thank you for that, Larry. But it's because it's so much bigger than normal episodes. I would guess I have between 8 to 15 hours more of editing to do. So there's a chance that the next episode could be up Wednesday, maybe Thursday. That's just sort of my estimate. I've got a lot more editing to do because it's a big episode, and it's adapting manga. So it takes a little longer. I think it's going to be worthwhile. I hope it does well because of how much time I'm spending on it. But I think it's going to be interesting. I really do. So anyway, hello Australia. First live stream I've been able to catch in a long time. Oh yeah, totally understand. All right, I'll go back to the news. All right, DeWanda Weiss. She's about to star in the next Jurassic Park movie, if you haven't seen her and stuff before. She's on TV shows, too. She's going to play the main character in Killer Bee, an adaptation of the character from that comic. It's a graphic novel, really. Well, full story. The story, if you haven't ever read it, it follows a retiring assassin. She takes on an underground criminal network after she's tasked to kill the man that she's secretly fallen in love with. Ooh, conflict. Anyway, it's by David Crownson, and he also did Harriet Tubman, Demon Slayer. Why not? Hey, I recognize that name. I would love to see that person as a Demon Slayer. Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter, sold. King Arthur versus the Transformers, I'm in. Captain Crunch versus zombies, that's for me. I recognize these things. Candyland versus werewolves. That's the one I'm writing. That's the one I'm writing. All right, moving on. You were very appealed? Or do you mean appalled? Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies. I recognize these things. This one's pretty fun. Knights. Knights is a fairly recent Image comic book. It's being turned into an animated series, and that feels right. I've flipped through this, and the art style feels like animation is the way to go for this story. The Blob teams up with Hellman's Mayo. Well, that's just a commercial. Appealed. Good, good, good. All right, so Knights launched last year. It's a supernatural coming-of-age story. It takes place back in 2003. Supernatural creatures, human beings, they exist alongside each other. Also, America has only 31 states, so it's a different world than what we have. And that's by writer Wyatt Kennedy, artist Luigi Formisano. I don't know if I pronounced that quite right. And it's being developed as an animated series by animated studio Titmouse. Titmouse is a great animation studio. They've done many, many cool things over the years. I heard the people that were working for Titmouse like give a quote about this, and they were saying, like, when I read this, I thought of FLCL. If you've ever seen that original, like I want to say 4-episode anime, some of the coolest animation out there for a TV show. Really, really cool. DeWanda Weiss is one of the names I've seen rumored to play Storm, but nobody's been signed yet. And I've seen like every young actor rumored for every mutant out there, so I don't know what will happen. Oh yeah, Titmouse could definitely pull this off and make it actually a really cool show. Like, so I'm giving you guys this news now. I feel like this is the kind of thing that could be big. It could be. I don't know if they've got a publishing branch. I mean, I know that they've had some art books out there, but I don't know. FLCL was just a coming of age story. Yeah, Takun. Loved it. Yeah, they've done Beavis and Butthead. What do they do for Netflix? They do that show called Big Mouth. But they've done some other stuff. They do Star Trek Lower Decks. They do all sorts of stuff. Oh, man. You know what? Like, Last Mermaid could be cool live action, but knowing the background of Derek Kirkham, I think you're right. Like, Last Mermaid would make for an amazing animated series. The color palette, the character design, the environmental design, it all just screams that it would work so well in animation. Love Last Mermaid. I haven't watched all of Lower Decks, but everything I've seen has made me at least chuckle. It's pretty fun it's pretty easy to make jokes in the Star Trek universe because of sort of, how serious they are. But you can do it lovingly, where you still love like the tropes that they use. Of course he should. If it ever happens, he has to direct it. Yeah. Pretty sure if you go on something like IMDb, Titmouse has done some of Beavis and Butthead. It might have been the modern version that like was on last year. I don't know. Let's see. I would know. Yeah, Mike remembers. I've known Mike for Jesus, Mike. We've probably known each other online for over 20 years now that I think of it. Mike's a great artist, and we knew each other on like these. There used to be forums before there was any social media. And back in the, not quite that long ago, but for a while, I made a Star Trek comic strip called Star Trek Problems, where I would just poke fun at the tropes and stuff. It would be like, the way they write dialogue, somebody would be like, I'm so hungry I could eat a Tarkalian horse. Instead of just saying, like, I'm so hungry I could eat a horse, they always throw in, like, an alien name. And I know I had one where, like, Riker's like, I'm so hungry I could eat a Tarkalian horse. And, like, Picard's like, a Tarkalian horse? Are you sure you don't mean, like, Jakku 7? horse, a Tarkalian horse, is actually quite small. And he's like, oh, that is what I meant. I mean, and Picard's like, no, you've already ruined it. I missed that. Yeah, Titmouse did Venture Brothers. What am I? That should have been what I led with. That would be what I'd lead with. My mental health is in the toilet. It's terrible. It's terrible. I'm laughing because of how bad it is, but don't worry. I'm not going to hurt myself or anything. I'm just overwhelmed with just work and health and just too much. But don't worry. This is my happy place. I love talking comics. I love joking around with all of you. But thank you for asking. That's very kind. I'm sorry that I don't have a happier answer, but we'll at least laugh about it. Natasha Lyonne is going to star in an adaptation of this comic. I remember when this was coming out, I loved it. I didn't like the sequel very much, but this book was awesome. Basket full of heads. So she's going to produce and star in an adaptation of this comic. Cool. Lily Amirpour is going to write and direct. And if you don't know Lily's work, she did A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. Pretty good movie. Really great movie, actually, that got a lot of buzz. Yeah, I'm on the same page with you, man. I love Joe Hill. One of my favorite comics, and I did do an episode on Comic Tropes about it. I loved Lock and Key. I thought it was fantastic. I liked Horns. That was a book he did. I loved this one, Basket Full of Heads. He also did a really cool comic with, he's one of my favorite artists, and I'm just bad at names. Who am I thinking of? It's an artist who did Ultimate Spider-Man for a long time, and he did Next Wave, Agents of Hate. What was the name of that artist? What was the name of the comic? Shoot! Thank God I've got a live chat to figure this out with me. Who drew Next Wave? Stuart Immonen. Thank you, Owens. Yeah, okay. Stuart Immonen and Joe Hill did a great horror comic. It's called something like The Purge or The Deep or something like that. Yeah, everybody quickly knew Stuart Immonen because he's a great artist. Plunge? Maybe it was Plunge. It might have been called Plunge. Better, I felt like it got no buzz, but it's great. The chat is totally faster than Google because some of you just know it, and even with the delay, an answer from chat is faster than me Googling it. That's why I just sort of go what am I thinking of? And somebody knows. Yeah, Plunge is really, really good, folks. It's really cool. Yeah, kind of Lovecraftian. It's about family that works on the ocean, shipping stuff, and just some horrible monster stuff. It's really good. Oh, tell you what, just since you mentioned that, I was on a trip, and then Jim Mafood was on a trip for a convention in Greece. We've both been busy, but we are going to do more Trash Movie Bonanza. I won't tell you the movie that we're doing next, but we are going to have a guest, actually two guests. We're going to have Transformers artist Jorge Corona and his wife are going to be on the show with us talking about a ridiculous movie. Jorge Corona from Transformers. Let's highlight something cool from it. Is there some? Yeah, like this. Look at that. That's Seattle's Space Needle getting absolutely wrecked by some Transformers. And because we're having Jorge on, I'm going to reach out to Daniel Warren Johnson, the writer of this, because he was just talking on his live stream about seeing a pretty classic B movie that Jim Mafood and I have talked about potentially doing one day. So we'll see if we can do get Jorge for one episode of Trash Movie Bonanza and Dan for another. We'll see. That could be a lot of fun. But anyway, yeah, the Jorge Corona. Man, it's so nice to see his sort of career blowing up and going well, because he's worked for a while, and he's crushing it on Transformers. I have fallen in love with his work. He does lots of great stuff. Anyway, just teasing some stuff. We're doing some stuff behind the scenes for that. Yeah, it would be really fun. Manos Hard Hands of Fate is funny to make fun of, but overall it is a drag to get through. Oh, absolutely. That's one anyway, yeah. Too bad Gilbert Gottfried is no longer with us. Didn't he used to host a B-movie marathon? Man, he was definitely the host of Up All Night for USA, and he hosted some pretty schlocky movies there. Always nice to see you, Jay. But did he host a B-movie marathon? I don't know. Gilbert Gottfried, by the way, if you only know him from, like, say, being a guest on shows or like doing voices for commercials, his stand-up is legit hilarious. He's really, really funny. All right, going back to this piece of news. That was quite a detour, sorry. Basket full of heads. Just real quick, the overall sort of gist of the story, it's by, first of all, Joe Hill and artist Leo Max, and I like Leo Max quite a bit. It follows this girl named June. Took place in the comic. It takes place back in like the 70s or 80s. I can't quite remember which. Kind of an island town like in Jaws or something. I think it's off the coast of Massachusetts. Anyway, she comes across an axe that people are after because it's enchanted. And when you kill someone with it, or their head stays alive and keeps talking. So she's sort of trying to survive these people that are coming after her while also hiding the evidence of her inadvertent, like, self-defense crime. It's both funny and a cool horror movie. It's horror, action, and comedy. It's a great blend. Great blend. I got a basket full of heads. Yeah, you might think that doesn't sound too great, but Pocket Full of Kryptonite by the Spin Doctors wasn't that great either. Oh, man. If you haven't heard it, look, it's too offensive for me to sort of like recap or anything, but if for some reason you've never heard of the joke, The Aristocrats, it's a joke basically any comedian can tell to give their spin on it and use up some time. Gilbert's pretty vulgar, pretty hilarious. It is not. Let's give him credit. You're right. Joe Hill has a great ending for this, for Plunge, for Lock and Key. I mean, these all have rock solid endings. I would say, look, I think Stephen King does have a number of really solid endings. He's written so many things, though, that you can easily remember some that aren't as strong, but he's written so much. And at first I didn't love the ending to Dark Tower because that was like sort of his big epic series that crossed across all of his worlds and stuff. But the more I thought about it, the more I actually really liked the ending to it. But anyway. Berserk returns this month. One of my all-time favorite mangas, personally. It is dark as hell, but it really makes me love the protagonist, Guts, because he goes through just about anything bad you could think of, and he keeps going, and he keeps becoming a slightly better person. He starts as a pretty unlikable asshole, to be honest, but he becomes better and better after going through horrible things. Anyway, it comes out intermittently at this point. The last chapter came out back in November of last year. 2 chapters come out this month. Chapter 379 just came out 3 days ago, and another chapter is getting released on the 28th. So the original creator, the artist and writer of it, Kentaro Miura, sadly, he passed away several years ago. And it seemed like the story wouldn't get completed. It was in the final big, arc. It was in, the third act of a story that had been going on for years. This book has sold over 60 million copies. It's huge. It's a huge manga. It was very sad. Well, eventually his best friend Koji Mora decided to step up. He's the only person that Miura had told the full story of Berserk to. He needed somebody as a sounding board. He trusted his best friend. Koji Mori finally decided he would complete it along with the assistants that worked with Kentaro Miura. So Studio Gaga and Moji are finishing it these days. And overall, just so you know, like where the story had left off last, Guts's true love, Casca, had just regained her memories, and she's been abducted by the big bad of this, a guy named Griffith. That's very kind of you. Thank you for the super chat and the kind words. Things like that do make me feel better. So thank you. I don't know that I'm doing better, but I'm managing. I am managing, and I appreciate the kindness. Anyway, it's a super dark story, but it becomes cool like as it goes on because he assembles sort of a team around him, and he becomes a little bit more open to being friendly with people and having a little more mercy and stuff. It's really cool. Super chat just to stick up for the Dark Tower ending. It sticks out with you in the best and worst ways. He gave us a warning before. Yeah, exactly. The cool thing of no, I won't spoil it. It's really cool. It's really cool. Love it when people hit the like button. Thank you. Anyway, great manga. If you haven't read it, the very first arc, the art is good, but it gets so much better. Some of the most intricate, detailed, and horrific art you've seen. Some of the most exciting action scenes you've ever seen. It evolves so much. The first arc, Guts is not very likable. And then the second arc, it is sort of a flashback to essentially his origins and stuff. And it's just incredible from that point on. I personally love the A Song of Fire and Ice. I love it. I am not convinced George R.R. Martin is especially motivated to finish it. I think he's lost a lot of interest in it. Because if he had even a little interest, he's had a lot of time to finish it. A lot. So I've sort of lost faith that it will come out. Every once in a while, there's a piece of news, and I sort of start getting my hopes up, and I have to remind myself, look, the Game of Thrones or A Song of Ice and Fire books are super unlikely to ever get finished. Nobody named him that. He was born in a pile of guts. And the people that took him on, some pretty hardcore mercenaries with no real kindness, just named him Guts. Yeah, he is a perfectionist, George R.R. Martin is. But I just don't think I think he's lost interest. He spends a huge amount of time on a long-running superhero tabletop RPG. And I don't follow that too much. Oh, yeah, man. I recommend it. It is badass. It is badass. I guess the point is, if you want to know how it ends, in some ways there's been a lot of stuff in the novels that really indicate where it's likely to eventually end up. And we have the light roadmap of where the show ended. And I always felt that the show did get rushed in the last 3 seasons and stuff, but where everything ended, I felt was pretty close to what the books are going to give us. So it's sort of I can come up with a headcanon of where the books are likely to go. There's still lots of interesting questions. And if you really find it interesting, what I recommend is reading books on the history of the War of the Roses. That is a huge, huge inspiration for Game of Thrones / A Song of Ice and Fire. Real life medieval war between two families that each felt that they had the proper claim to the throne. And the more you read about that, the more you sort of can intuit what the story is. All right. I'll go back to wrapping this up. Umbrella Academy is getting a new comic book arc, everybody. It's coming back in June, and creators Gerard Way and Gabriel Ba, still through Dark Horse. The story arc is called Plan B, and they gave us an official description. After the mass release of the city's greatest foes and the chaos that followed in Hotel Oblivion, that was the last storyline we got, the Umbrella Academy faces their most fearsome challenge to date, their other brothers and sisters. Known only as the Sparrows, they share a different connection to Sir Reginald Hargreaves and Mom. No one knows how to hurt each other more than family, and this powerful, ruthless brood will spare no brutality in favor of their sole objective, control, and the obedient glare that comes with it. If you watch the TV show, I haven't finished it, but I know that they basically adapted some of that idea. The TV producers knew where it was going, so they came up with that idea of, like, brothers and sisters. I want to say that the TV show said that it was from an alternate universe or parallel timeline, something like that. Again, I didn't watch it. I'm just sort of vaguely aware of it through like news and maybe clips and stuff like that. But anyway, this is cool. Yeah, I love that Way and Ba still love this project and that they're coming back with more. It's a good comic. Technically, what I said was family. It's a perfect Vin Diesel impression. It takes off about a year of my life every time I say it. Family, family, family. On the show, they're called the Sparrow Academy. Okay. The Sparrows on the show were the team that the Monocle assembled in an alternate timeline. Got it. They have a slightly different take on it, where there are just other children that were born at the same time and also have superpowers, and so they're called the Sparrows. But sort of similar idea. Yeah, that's one of the few clips that I've seen, was the Footloose dance-off. That was pretty fun. And funny. All right, last piece of news I have. What is Hell Hulk? Here's a cover for Helverine. Writer Benjamin Percy, artist Raphael Ienko introduced a new villain in issue 6 called Hell Hulk. We've got Hulk, Red Hulk, She-Hulk. Now we got Hell Hulk. Oh, we also have, Weapon H. Yeah, so we've got all sorts of alternate Hulks. Helverine is a demonic reincarnation of Wolverine's dead son, Akihiro. And the story is going to involve Project Hellfire. That's a government agency deep in the bowels of the Pentagon that study and investigate the supernatural. So yeah, we're getting Hell Hulk, which is basically just a super strong demon. Devil Hulk was all in the mind, though. I don't think Devil Hulk ever physically existed. So yeah, Hell Hulk, though. Crazy. Let me turn on my alternate camera so that we can take a quick look at some of the comics that came out this week. I've got things to say. I've got stuff to share. Opinions, you could say. There we go. Gonna move some stuff around, of course, and we'll get into some of the comics that came out this week. And then, who knows, maybe I'll even draw a little bit. I don't know. Why is that not working? There it is. Maybe like that? Would that work? Yeah. All right. Like I say, in Transformers, they last had some Decepticons battling in Tacoma, and now they have them destroying Seattle, just a little to the north. Pretty cool stuff. You know what's nice about this is that they make the Autobots actually quite compassionate, but in different ways, Some of the stuff I'm starting to really enjoy is taking place on their planet of Cybertron. But, what's nice is, like, we get actual scenes of them saving people. And I think that's something that can get forgotten sometimes in, action and superhero type comics. It can get forgotten that the stuff that's most exciting is seeing heroes put themselves in danger to save people. And here they're like, so the Decepticons are just trashing Seattle. The Autobots just do nothing but save lives. Okay? That's all they're doing, is saving people. And it's kind of cool seeing them, like, put that as the priority. It makes them likable. Meanwhile, on Cybertron, Cliffjumper has been like one of the main cast members of this book since the beginning, and now he's on their home planet where the Autobots are losing pretty badly. They've assembled a bunch of their dead brethren from this war, and like their life sparks are like small, and he's like, maybe we can't bring these guys back, but what if we put them all together? Maybe we could create something new. And he takes his human friend Carly's van, and they create the first new character for the comic, Shredhead. This is an original creation by Daniel Warren Johnson. Does not have a toy or anything. But yeah, we get a new hero, and the cool thing is that it's sort of like an embodiment of it's just been a prop, right? That Carly has a van that she's spray painted. It's just kind of cool that they've come up with a cool idea to turn that into an actual character. Yes, I want to say yes. Shredhead? That is aggressively Daniel Warren Johnson. It is, but I'm trying to sell it. Like, I'm not giving away like all the fight and everything. Oh man, it's so good. It's so good. Isn't that very, like, sometimes it's easy to forget that this is not Daniel Warren Johnson drawing it anymore, because I think that Jorge has really leaned into the style that Dan set up for this book. But anyway, it's great, folks. Lots of cool action scenes, lots of cool transformation stuff. But here's one thing I didn't understand, okay? They're on Cybertron, right? And this is Thrust, and he turns into his alternate mode. But isn't this like an Earth-based design for a jet? Or was Thrust always a sort of a made-up jet? Because this looks like the toy from the 80s, but I honestly don't remember if this is based on a real jet or if it's made up. Because it shouldn't be an Earth-based form, right? That's a great call out. They are great colors. Look at how like we're using lots of like orange and blue to pull out foregrounds and backgrounds. Lots of great opposite on the color wheel style. But otherwise, like if we're looking at a character, not tons of gradients. Nice straightforward, almost flat colors so that you're not muddying up or confusing the artwork itself. Anyway, this is a really good issue. It has some great subplot stuff with characters. I don't want to give it all away, but I do strongly recommend it. It is a blast to read. It is just so much fun. As long as I was talking about some of Dan's stuff, we'll just jump forward to The Moon is Following Us. No Dirge or Ramjet yet. Nope, just Thrust. I know all three of those guys debuted at the same time in the toys and I think the cartoon. Yes, just to be clear, that is what that is. All right, so The Moon is Following Us is about some parents trying to save their daughter who is basically just, she won't wake up from the dreams, okay? And the parents have been betrayed by an ally that was telling them like how to save her by entering the dreams and stuff. But almost everything they've been told, it turns out, has been a lie. That character betrayed them. And now they're allied with their daughter's nightmares. Like this guy's like sort of a spider monster. But here's the thing. It doesn't matter that like the daughter is afraid of things like crabs and spiders and stuff. They're her nightmares. So they do have her best interests in mind. And they are now allies of the parents. It's a great like change to the story dynamics where you realize that everything we've been dealing with hasn't quite been the truth. For instance, he's like, your ally gave you like weapons and tanks and stuff to fight the enemies. He's like, go ahead and try it on like, the monsters that are attacking us in this. And he's like, have you ever waited to see what happens? Well, they eventually revive. The weapons that they've been using, technically totally useless. Okay, so we get like, how can we actually in a dream world use these nightmares? This is a great scene. Anything in the real world, Daniel Warren Johnson draws. Anything in the dream world is illustrated by Riley Rossmo. This is the real world where the father was just really frustrated with the child safety seat, okay? And so her daughter got like scared of him losing his temper. What it means is that if we cut forward, he he finds out that like he finds the seat buried in the sand, and it's indestructible because that's what his daughter thought of it at the time. So he can just bash people with it. This thing is like a shield that cannot be broken or destroyed. And then wait till you see what happens with her fear of sharks and how the mother uses that. I won't give it away. What I'll say is like it took me a while to like really get into The Moon is Following Us, and last issue 5 started to shift like what we knew, and number 6 is really solidifying that. So there was sort of like almost this prologue, huge action epic scenes and everything, but it was based on lots of lies and misinformation. It's so cool now to like sort of like have the rules rewritten, but not like in a way that discounts anything that we've seen before. It think of how you have to structure that, where you're like, okay, the main characters are being fooled. So we, the readers, if we see things from their perspective specifically, we would also be fooled. But we're not like playing unfair. We're not just sort of like changing our idea 5 or 6 issues in and saying like, oh yeah, none of that counts. It's that they were being misled. And I think that that's some really clever structural writing, actually. And it also makes the enemies much more interesting because they're clever. They're not just dangerous, they're clever. They misled somebody. And so there's reasons to both be more angry at them, and there's reasons to fear them because they're smart and cunning, and they have good motivations. So The Moon is Following Us is doing a lot of good things now. It took me a little while to warm up to it as much as I've loved other DWJ comics, but I'm starting to be really into it. Yeah, I love that they can use dream logic, but they're playing fair with it. They're playing fair. They are defining the rules. We're getting a redefinition of the rules, but there are rules. It's not just anything goes. There are rules, and I like that. Everything you think you know is a lie. The Master to the 13th Doctor. 13th. Boy, I'm losing track now because I haven't watched Doctor Who a lot lately. Who was that Jodie Whittaker was the 13th, or was she the 12th? Who was the 13th? I can't remember. Deadpool saved a kid from his nightmares. I didn't know that. It was Jodie Whittaker. Yeah, okay. Because I was like, I don't think they used the Master since. Boy, I saw the final episode of Jodie Whittaker's run. I had skipped a bunch of them. And I got to the final episode, and it's got the Master, and it's got Cybermen, and it's got Daleks, and it's got time travel. And it makes no sense. I'm sorry, but it makes no sense. I love Doctor Who, so I should get back into it. Do I have a favorite? I've got several that I love a lot that would be competing for the top slot. Wonder Woman, Dead Earth, do a Powerbomb, and maybe Murder Falcon. Although that sort of discounts how good I think Transformers is these days. I would say Do a Powerbomb and Wonder Woman, Dead Earth are really high up there for me. Really high up there. But I love them all. Finally just read Dead Earth. It might be his best. It's really good. It's what inspired me to make an episode about Daniel Warren Johnson. He was still a little earlier in his career. I'm so glad DC gave him that opportunity. Whichever editor gave him that opportunity, they really advanced his career in the minds of people. But of course, he did that himself with a fantastic book. Cats are shouting. Yep, you guys can hear that. Yep. What else was cool this week? Batman, Absolute Batman, I should call it, issue 5. This helps us understand this version of Batman a lot. So Batman has been offered $200 million by Black Mask to stand down and stop going after him, okay? and he meets up to sort of like, and he's taking the money out and everything. And what he does is he lays all the money out on like this gigantic light that gets shined every anniversary when his father was killed in a shooting at a zoo. And he makes his version of a Batman symbol with it. Here's what's great, okay? Black Mask goes, that is one ugly bat. I mean, that's kind of funny meta commentary on how many people have like commented on how they didn't like the simplified bat for Absolute Batman. Anyway, so he uses it to like do that, and he burns it all. He burns all the money. He won't capitulate. He will. This is not a millionaire Batman, so $200 million could make a humongous difference in his war on crime. But he won't go for it. He also gets his arm dislocated by Black Mask, so that like helps sort of elevate the villain as an actual physical threat. There's some good changes here defining how this Batman works. I like that this Batman just has tons of gadgets. I love the gadgets. Like his cape is cool. It's got like sort of legs that he can launch up on, and he can use it as like a whip to like grab people and yank them in close. He's got like these spikes in his shoulders that he can like have retract and expand to defend himself. And in this one, he gets thrown off a roof, and the cape works a little bit like a parachute. So it's cool seeing him use all these gadgets. It reminds me of 1970s James Bond on some levels, but that's not a bad thing at all. That is not a bad thing. Yeah, you know what? I was just about to ask the exact same question. I got this variant cover because it looked cool, but I am not 100% sure who drew this. Does anybody, has anybody looked that up? There's a signature here, and I feel like I recognize this style, but it's not coming to me. I'm going, okay, there's some vibes of guys like James Stokoe and Daniel Warren Johnson and Heron and stuff like that. Could it be Heron? I don't know. James Heron? It's Ian Bertram? Ian Bertram, huh? I guess I don't know Ian Bertram as well. It's a Bertram cover. I liked it. So I just, all else being equal, this is the one that I decided to pick up. I do like the idea of a working class Batman, and I like the gadgets and stuff. Last issue was basically his origin story, and that was nice to have spelled out. I thought that was probably the best issue of the book so far, was issue 4. But this one's still cool. It helps elevate Black Mask to be a villain to be feared for how dangerous he actually is. Because, let me just be clear, he absolutely wrecks Batman. Batman escapes, but he wrecks Batman. Batman is not a huge threat yet for Black Mask, which makes sense. This is a Batman that's just starting out. Bertram was the artist on Precious Metal. I didn't read that, I guess. Yeah, he makes his own gadgets because this is a Batman who is an engineer, first and foremost. He's very smart. He's educated himself in many different fields, but his day job is a civil engineer for the city. And he's used his engineering genius to sort of make his suit and his Batmobile and things like that into like multifaceted weapons. Yeah, he makes all his own gadgets, and it's cool. That's nice to hear. I've never met Mike Spicer, but I love his work. He was talking about the colors on books like The Moon is Following Us and Transformers. Here's a new book that came out that you guys might be curious. Is it worth picking up or not? I will argue, yes, absolutely. I like this. I like this a lot. I don't know if it's perfect or anything, but I had a blast. I got the variant cover by Peach Momoko just because I think her best work is her creepy work, or her work that blends sexiness and creepiness. I think that's her best. That's her strong suit. But I like this cover. But the book is actually drawn by Mahmoud Asrar, okay? And what have we got here? Well, we've got a war of sort of bug men. We've got ants versus barbarians that use beetles. And it is pretty cool. Like several pages of like double page spreads. It's violent. It's Conan type stuff, but with bug people. And you're like, okay, is this happening, in a fantasy world or on another planet or another dimension or anything like that? No. In fact, here they all are getting absolutely decimated because they got a lawnmower went over their area. This takes place in very much the real world, but there is a small hidden world. We get a map to what we're talking about here at the back, and I love extra stuff like this, where we've got like the main character's house and the mowed lands, the forbidden zone, the neighbor's yard, an old koi pond, an overgrown garden, the brush pile, ant hills, the pine lands, all sorts of the woods, undiscovered areas. We've got a story of, whoops, I don't want to give too much away. We've got like two brothers, Slade and what's his brother's name? Sid. Slade and Sid and their mom. And apparently they lost their dad a while back. And now they don't have much money, and they've gone back to like the only piece of property their dad still owned, which is deep in Alabama, coincidentally, near where Jason Aaron grew up. And eventually, like their dad studied bugs, by the way. We were hinted at that. So like one brother absolutely loves bugs. This Slade loves it. He's like this zitty, nerdy teenager, but he loves bugs like his dad did. And Sydney, the older brother, hates them because he encountered some really scary stuff with bugs as a young boy. He hates bugs. What's important is that like there's this medallion that Slade accidentally touches, and he has shrunk down into this world of bugs, okay? If you think Slade is an intense name, just to be clear, his last name, the family's last name is Slaymaker. The lawnmower guy said, does look like it. I'm going to not go too far from here. Oh, Stefan, it's so good. I feel like this is Mahmoud Asrar having a lot of fun. And I think that, you would know, any artist that's having fun, it's going to produce their best work. Think of like all these gestures and stuff to like the idea of like, winds picking people up into the air, but they're also being eviscerated and stuff. You don't want to go too gory and gross, but like there's some gross stuff in this book, folks. Hi, kitty. Hi, kitty cat. This is like stuff you'd see in Conan, like swords cleaving heads. But then it's like green blood, so it's not necessarily like quite as rough as it could be. So what is this book? It is essentially like a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids mixed with Conan the Barbarian. That's the best way I can put it. And it looks like it's just going to become an epic of this kid becoming maybe a warrior here. I want to say that like it seems like it might be setting it up for like a long-term arc, like that this kid could go from, sort of being, like next to nothing, like the lowest rung, to like a warrior potentially, which you'd never expect, and maybe even someday the leader of it, because we are told that we get a little bit of like omniscient third party, or I should say like we get a little bit of omniscient narrator. That's what I'm trying to say. Omniscient narrator. And at the end, it seems to imply that the narrator is Slade way in the future by Tiny Crom. I like that. Guys, I think it's a blast. I think that's a cool idea. And there's tons of different types of bugs in this. We're told about all sorts of ants and beetles, wasps, maggots, bees, all sorts of different like sort of creatures that have their own domains and stuff like that. I love that this like, this huge war is now just like this Mad Max-esque desert wasteland because a lawnmower went over it and eviscerated everyone. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. It's a blast. You know, I think you could get bogged down with introducing too much lore at once, like lots of boring exposition, cluttering it up. Instead, we get hints as to like the narrative. We get hints at character growth and description while we're getting some badass action in between. It's a really good mix of things. I liked it. Are the Beetlemen the kids' stepbrothers? I don't think it's anything quite like that. But I don't know. I don't know whether, like, you know, the dad discovered them. Did he create them? Was he even aware of them? I don't know. I don't know. Not yet. To crush your bugs, to see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentations of their queen worker bees. This book really bugs me. Yeah, you got to pace out the lore. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a tough call, you know, because you want your comic to succeed, right? So you want to give people the interesting stuff right up front. But you do too much and it becomes overwhelming and kind of like cluttered and boring and the pacing is off. I think that you've always got to sort of err on the side of trusting yourself how to pace out a story well. And I'll give an example of some of that is I honestly think that The Moon is Following Us is trusting that, because it could have front-ended this like lore with the nightmares by issue like 2 or something, and I think it would have just been way too much getting all at once. It's really impressive. Yes, great observation. You're right. It could have read like a manual, and that's not what we're there to experience. Oh, let's be clear. Like, the older brother Sid is not that likable because of how he treats bugs. But I won't give it all away. But he's kind of mean. Is this going to be a stand-up fight, sir? Is this going to be another stand-up fight, sir? Or another bug hunt? Game over, man. Game over. I'll try to be kind of quick with some of my other reviews here. What else did I love? You know what? Let me talk about something I thought Marvel did that was really cool. I think I'm inclined to really enjoy the writing of Ryan North, because I've been saying that his take on Fantastic Four is putting it possibly in the top 3 runs of Fantastic Four, which is a huge claim. There have been a lot of great teams on Fantastic Four, and I think that the Lee Kirby run holds up extremely well. I also personally absolutely love other runs in there. I'm trying to think of some of my favorites. Walt Simonson, I really liked his somewhat brief run on Fantastic Four. Jonathan Hickman recently, you know, Dan Slott had a run, but I love, you know, classic. Oh, John Byrne. How can I forget? John Byrne had a great Fantastic Four run. He really did. Mark Waid. That's right. Mark Waid with the late great, oh shoot, I'm so bad at names, folks, but I love the artist he worked with there. Well known for Flash for a long time as well. Oh geez, I'm so terrible at names. Ringo, thank you. Mike Waringo. Thank you, everybody. Anyway, I like Ryan North. His Fantastic Four run emphasizes family and has a science-based mystery every issue. Usually, it's a single issue story. You get a complete middle. You do get a middle, beginning, middle, and end. It's awesome. It's so satisfying. Sometimes there's 2 issues for a big story, but it's satisfying. It is how I think a lot of superhero comics should be. Give me a complete, cool idea and give me some really likable characters and just bounce around with them. Love it. In Marvel's events and stuff, Doctor Doom tricked Stephen Strange, and now he is the Sorcerer Supreme. He has access to like the most powerful magic in the land. Here's what's interesting. Now we're starting like this new arc. Doctor Doom starts out and he's like, guess what? I just had all the world leaders agree that they are now territories of my country, Latveria. I rule the world. It is done. It is a done deal. There wasn't a fight or anything. He just somehow got all the leaders to agree. Something magical. We don't know yet exactly how. Doesn't really matter. I think with the amount of magic we've seen Doctor Strange have, we can believe that he can mislead or misguide people, and he could, like, at least temporarily take over the world. He has done it, though. That has always been his goal. Here's what becomes interesting, okay? What if this supervillain, we know he's an egomaniac. We know he'll betray and hurt and kill others to achieve his goals. What if he still somehow did some good things? Because he announces, like in these press conferences and stuff, what he does. He goes, you have to do absolute fealty. And he goes, you probably expect me to start like going after my enemies or making slave camps to build monuments to me. He's like, that's not what I'm going to do. He goes, your governments are going to run pretty much the same as they always have, with two changes. One, none of you are allowed to fight each other. No more wars. Two, I am implementing universal health care for all. He's like, my citizens will get universal health care. You just will. He's like, and at some point he's like, these ideas, these easy, inarguable wins for civilization are not new. They are expensive, yes, and complex, yes, but they were never impossible. It makes sense to me in a way that Dr. Doom would insist on these things. He's always treated his tiny little European country well, in terms of, like, they eat, they get health care, and they seem to love him. Okay? So what's so bad? Now the Avengers are like, hey, it's Dr. Doom. We know he's bad. We got to take him down. But it's like, do you? Do you need to take him down? Which it's a cool little moral quandary of, like, we have years and years of seeing Dr. Doom do bad stuff, but we also do know that he, unlike a lot of supervillains, he doesn't like lie. He follows, like, his word if he says he'll do something, and he does treat his citizens well. Like, could he, in fact, make the world a better place, like a united place? I don't know. Like, it's an interesting idea where we go, like, well, what is, like, of course there's going to be a twist at some point. It's Dr. Doom. But so far in issue 1, we haven't really seen what he's doing that's evil. And so like the Avengers go up against him and everything, right? And he definitely saw this coming, and he basically has them he allows them to set him back, and then he just says to the world, he's like, wow, these are your heroes. He goes, like, I said I was going to give you guys, like, safety and healthcare, and they came after me. Can you believe it? Like, these are your heroes, supposedly, and they came after me for that? And he makes them look really bad. He makes the Avengers look pretty bad. So I kind of like what it's set up. I think this is going to be a 4-issue series, I want to say, which isn't too bad for an event. It seems like I'll get everything I need within this from how it's been set up. I hope that that's right. Dr. Doom, I think, might have a little bit of a thing for Storm, which makes sense because she's very powerful and, yeah, pretty awesome. I know! Exactly. So what's cool about this is we are sort of being led to be on the side of the supervillain. Because so far he hasn't, like, slit somebody's throat or, like, kicked a baby off a cliff or something like that. It's an interesting idea to explore. And a supervillain actually achieving, world power. And then let's see how he actually handles it. Is he going to be able to accomplish it? Is he deceiving us somehow? What's the trade-off? There is going to be a trade-off, but we don't know what it is yet. And so it's an interesting setup where we're like, okay, why would the Avengers have a problem with this? I think it's an interesting way to approach a story. I feel like he is a dictator, but what if he's a benevolent one? it's at least an interesting idea because we're like, okay, but we should be opposed to dictatorships in general. Like they're dangerous. They're dangerous. You give somebody too much leeway, too much power, and it's like, how do you push back? There's no checks and balances, right? So we can see that there's something in the back of our minds that go like, wait, this shouldn't work really. But so far, it seems like it's setting it up. 9 issues? Okay, that's a lot more than I realized. Oh, I bet it comes out more than once a month, huh? I bet it comes out like twice a month if they're doing that, because there's no way they're doing this for 9 months, is there? Maybe. Well, that's true. Back in the day, the Romans would literally appoint a dictator and anything like for the defense of their country. In wartime, they would appoint a leader as a dictator, and anything that they did couldn't basically be prosecuted or anything afterwards. And that leader would typically always hand that back down. And what they were against were tyrants, but they were okay with dictators. They just weren't okay with tyrants. And you should see, read up on how the senators conspired to kill Caesar, because they definitely broke their own laws to do that. Well, this does actually have villains fighting other villains, because Baron Zemo and Hydra are like, well, we're not going to agree to some other dictator. We're going to go in and, stop Doom. So it does sort of have some of that. Doom's hubris will probably be his downfall, but what is he going to be doing that's so wrong? Because at first it seems good, but I think that what we'll see is when you uncover this, that it wouldn't work. That's what I think that the story will ultimately tell us, because I don't think it could. But Doom is smart, and he's thought ahead, and he's anticipated a lot of the different threats. I'm not going to give away everything, but there are some cool things. I won't go into this too much because it's a weird book to review, but Ice Cream Man issue 43 does have the regular creators of it, W. Maxwell Prince, and art by Marazzo and O'Halloran. But every page in this is its own horror story. It's all one-page horror stories with plenty of guest writers. Jeff Lemire, Grant Morrison, Patton Oswalt, Zoe Thorogood. So it's just nothing but interesting ideas for one-page horror stories. Somebody's having some fun there. It's a really cool experiment with some really amazing results. A couple of these really freaked me out. There's some awesome ideas. I will say that, on an emotional level, the one that Zoe did is about, her brother killed himself recently. It's really, really sad. Really, really sad. And Zoe's working through that with a lot of her art, and including this story. It's deeply personal, and it feels sad and tragic. Pharaoh continues to be a badass story with some really creepy ideas, like some cats that are trapped that feel like they need to start trying to eat the lady that they think is dead to survive. That's pretty scary. We also have them trapped in little cages, and the lady driving around like a maniac. Maybe a car accident or something. Some really great scary ideas. But the last book I want to talk about this week, I'm going to skip Red Cody. It's awesome. It's fantastic. But yeah, I'm just going to keep moving. Cool cover by Steve Lieber, actually. I'm just noticing that now. It's a really cool cover. Lucky Devils. Lucky Devils, folks. If you enjoyed curse words, if you enjoyed 8 Billion Genies, you're definitely going to enjoy Lucky Devils, where there are no angels, we're told, but there are devils. And what they do is they work their way up, almost sort of a pyramid scheme type of thing, where they're given a single sin, they're given a person, and they have to corrupt that person and ruin the lives of as many people as possible. And if they do a good job with that, they might get a second sin, a third sin, etc. But it's just nothing but bureaucracy down there. And these two devils have decided, the hell with this system. We're going to like give these two good people on Earth the benefits that we can give them without trying to corrupt them, so that we can like ruin hell. We're just going to like destroy hell. So yeah, they can influence things and make weird things happen. I don't know if that is ultimately their plan or if they will turn out to be evil, but it is cool seeing hell fall apart. Yeah. Like hell's just starting to have like explosions randomly and stuff like that and killing other devils down there because it can't deal with the fact that good is actually happening instead of people being corrupted. It's so funny. What a cool idea. Let's ruin hell. Let's ruin hell because hell is just a workplace and it's a terrible workplace. Would you let your cats eat you when the time comes? Yeah, probably. What do I care, right? Here, I'll just do a little more inking on this. We're still in February, Black History Month. I'll just do a little bit of inking and take any questions that people have. But the ones that I'd recommend the most this week, because I gave a lot of things that I said I liked, right? Let me just do that real quick. I would say that the ones I liked the most this week were One World Under Doom, because of the crazy questions it asks, Bug Wars, and actually, yeah, Transformers. Those are like the top 3 out of all of these. And I gave a lot of recommendations. Maybe the description of some of it appeals to you more than that. But those are the ones that I right now am recommending the most. And thank you, by the way, everybody, for like, showing up and participating and stuff. It means a lot to me. David Harper interviewed these guys about the book on his podcast Off Panel. That's awesome. Brown and what was the artist's name again? One more time. Sorry. That's so Charles Soule and Ryan Brown. Charles Soule and Ryan Brown. I've heard good things about that. Boy, dude, at this point, at this age, like probably more people than I can like accurately list. I have not seen that movie. What I fear in Transmorphers is that it's just boring as compared to hilariously bad. That is the trick with, I'm going to take off my glasses to draw. That is the trick with bad movies, is that like some of them are just boring. And I'd say boring bad is way worse than stupid or silly bad. Just spotting a bunch of blacks real quick on this gun and arm, but I will glance up in just a second to see what kind of questions are being asked. Are you guys enjoying anything comics-wise that came out this week that I didn't mention? Because I'm always open to recommendations. That's how I discover stuff. I remember Sectars, but I never picked up any of the toys or read any of the comics or anything. Oh yeah, what's it called? Something like Friendship or something? It looks like a sort of a darker but still funny take on I Love You Man. That looks cool. Got any good and gory horror recommendations? Boy, I haven't seen a lot lately, although Companion was decent. That's out in theaters now. Are we talking movies or comics? Did you see Matt's latest video? In it, he taught himself how to draw by drawing 5 hours each day for a month. No, I didn't see it. I wish I had 5 hours a day. Who has 5 hours a day unless that's your job? Thanks for staying so late, Joe. I know it's late there. Fletch is good. New Gods, yeah. Oh, you meant comics. Like gory, cool comics. I mean, first of all, Berserk is pretty gory and scary at times. What else is a good horror book. Well, we talked about this one tonight too. Lock and Key is pretty fantastic. So's Basket Full of Heads. Wow, so we talked about a couple good ones tonight. What else is really good? I don't know. I guess sometimes you're just not anticipating a question, so it like becomes a little hard to think of a suitable answer, and I'm having trouble right now. It's a good question. Harrow County's good and creepy. Has a little bit of like gory stuff, a little here and there. Something's Killing the Children. A little more of like an adventure take on horror, but yeah. Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate you checking us out. Or me out. There's nobody else that works on this. Josh Simmons comics? I don't think I know Josh Simmons. Not coming to me anyway. That's a good recommendation. Sure. Junji Ito. And then like you can look at the stuff that inspired him if you like horror manga. You know, look up some Kazuo Umezu. Right. Crossed is pretty damn gory. And you know what? You can't go wrong with the reprints of the exceptional EC horror comic stuff of the 1950s. That was pretty fantastic. Yeah. Superman 64 is true horror. Yes. I will agree with you. That is what real horror is. It has such sights to show you. I think I heard that there was a new remastering of the original Hellraiser that got out into theaters like a week or two ago, but I didn't have time to see it, unfortunately. I've just have to do too many hours at like work and then like editing, and yeah, I guess I can understand how like if a channel is probably like financially successful, you just hire editors. But I just unfortunately like my channel doesn't really bring in that kind of money. I mean, it's good. I'm grateful for what it brings in. It's still like, you know, something I can more or less live on. Obviously, I have a day job, but, you know, like it's a good income, but it isn't something that makes me rich. And I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that, like, yeah, if it made more money, then all of a sudden you're like, well, now I have to hire an editor and I'll just like pay top dollar for the best one. And then all of a sudden, hey, now I've got all this extra free time. So now I could make comics or host different types of live show giveaways and sales and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's really cool when you see like, there are channels that are smaller than mine that can make a lot more money. It all depends on what you've sort of set yourself up to do. Like, you know, like a show that sells stuff like a claim sale could probably make more than me just making little documentary type stuff. But anyway, I'm talking too much about myself, I guess. I'm not trying to bore anyone, just trying to talk about YouTube stuff. There's not a lot of like other people that you can talk to about YouTube, so it's really cool when you meet like a couple other YouTubers, like in the chat, Dave from West Coast Avengers, really fun. I've heard great things about Hello Darkness, have not read it. Love Johnny Craig, man. Johnny Craig is so good. I heard about that. Yeah, Godzilla versus America. I did not hear though the part about it benefiting comic shops affected by wildfires. That's nice that they did that. That's really cool. Prairie Gods, that's new to me too. Oh, sure. Yeah. Tell you what, I will. I'll give like a little bit of a review, but I promise I won't spoil anything. Captain America: Brave New World. First of all, thanks, Jack. You want to show back up? You want to show up? I liked it. I will say that. I won't try to claim that Captain America: Brave New World is exceptional. It isn't that. And that's okay, though. Because here's the thing. I think that Avengers Endgame might have sort of skewed all of our perceptions on exactly the quality of the MCU in general. okay? Because the MCU always has had one or two great movies, but not every single year, just to be clear. I would say that, like, the best stuff is Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. I would say Captain America Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. These are all, like, really top tier MCU things. But even, like, back in the day, I don't think that anybody was like, oh, The Incredible Hulk is an all-time classic. Iron Man 2, wow, what great structure, just so well balanced. Thor the Dark World, that's one that I'll watch a million times. And so I think people have sort of forgotten that, like, these movies used to just be very enjoyable and take a bunch from the comics, and they were fun. They weren't always exceptional. They were good. And I would say that Captain America Brave New World is good. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I thought that the action was cool. I thought that I liked that it wasn't super jokey. I think that the strongest parts of it are performances by two of the actors in it, Harrison Ford and Carl Lumbly. Harrison Ford plays a version of the President of the United States that's in over his head in some ways. He's made some bad decisions that are coming back to haunt him. And he's got a lot to play emotionally with, like, you know, his relationships with people that give it some real gravitas. It does not hurt that Harrison Ford is a great actor. You know, it's really good. I think Carl Lumbly, he plays like, a Captain America that was active during the Korean War in the 1950s, but a guy who then the government, you know, basically put in prison to experiment and learn from him for 30 years. So he's very, like, traumatized, and he plays that so well, like, really haunted, sad eyes. So, you know, the weak parts are, come on, dude, what are you meowing about? What are you meowing about? You're okay. He wants to play or something, so pretty soon I'll have to, like, take some time to play with he likes to play fetch. I'll play fetch with Jack in a little bit. Anyway, sometimes it's nice when the Marvel movies are legit kind of funny. This doesn't have a lot of jokey dialogue. So I don't consider that, like, you know, a big negative. I consider that like a nice change of pace, but sometimes it is kind of nice to have some funny stuff. Is it a little, I think it's paced okay, considering that apparently there were reshoots. I didn't feel like any of it was super obvious. I wish some of this stuff was a little more comic booky. There's a version of the Serpent Society in this, but they're more just like, what would I call them? Like mercenaries, just regular mercenaries. I liked Giancarlo Esposito in this because he legit gives Captain America a hard time. I like that this version of Captain America doesn't have, like, inherent superpowers. So he feels like an underdog in a lot of fights. So anyway, there's lots of pluses. I wouldn't say that it was, like, exceptionally deep in terms of, like, developing the Sam Wilson character. That could have been better for him. It could have had a more personal story with stakes that were relevant to him. I think that's it. I think it would have carried more weight if he had more of a personal connection with some of the villains in this. That's all. You guys are both wound up. Jack and Lily are chasing each other back and forth in the background. So anyway, those are a bunch of thoughts that I have without trying to get too into the plots, like, or changes or anything like that. I liked it. I did. I had a good time. I had a legit good time. What? Yeah, I don't think, honestly, so here's my opinion. I've never outright disliked any of the MCU movies. Stuff like Eternals didn't do well, or Black Widow has some dodgy special effects at the end. I still have a good time at them. I legit have a good time at all of them. So, I don't know. But I also would not put some of them towards the top, that's for sure. Jackie, do you want to come over here, bud? You want to play? He's meowing to get his sister's attention because they're sort of playing chase. Because right now he's just lying down in his kitty condo. No, I didn't say Marvel. I said MCU. Madam Web was kind of funny bad, but it is bad. It is bad. Yeah, right. And Copperhead was just a guy in this. I would have liked some superpowers or at least some elaborate costumes. I would have liked that. From my understanding, there were originally like Diamondback was in the movie and they cut her. I would have liked to have seen some of that. You didn't care for Eternals? I kind of liked Eternals. I did. I would say that of the movies that have come out lately by Marvel, or at least post Endgame, the ones that I like the most would be things like the third Spider-Man movie, Deadpool and Wolverine, and Shang-Chi. I like Shang-Chi. I would really like another Shang-Chi movie. I wish they'd get to work on that. I think Armor Wars could be really cool, but it seems like Marvel doesn't have a whole lot of interest in moving that one forward. Would it be better with Tony Stark? Yeah, that isn't realistic. I think you could still make a great Armor Wars movie with War Machine and the idea of policing up all that Stark technology. Let's give it doesn't have to be the main villain, but let's get like a whole movie full of characters like Blizzard and Crossfire and Crimson Dynamo and Titanium Man and all these other cool sort of tech-based enemies that Iron Man's had in the past, and just say that different countries are using Stark technology that War Machine has to get under control. I think that that's simple and could be really fun and action-packed and would make sense. Like there would be an emotional stakes because Rhodey would want to do right by his late friend. You could have one of the ultimate enemy have like more political or government connections somehow, like maybe somebody that Rhodey worked with closely in the military is the one that leaked this technology out there, and then you've got a real personal vendetta. So I think that could be a great movie, but it doesn't seem like a priority for them. Yeah, I see that a bunch of people are a little tired of it. I guess some of it is going to be based on what we've all grown up with, okay? Some of us have grown up with a bunch of these movies and we've seen good ones and we want to see it excel. So start fresh or don't make bad movies. I come from an era where there was hardly any superhero stuff on TV or in the movies. Very little. So to see it done at a big budget level with name actors that have acting chops, it's still exciting for me because it's something that I've always wanted, and I'm getting something that I always wanted and I didn't have for so long. But if you've grown up with it, you've always sort of had a version of it, and I get it. But for me, it's still exciting to see this stuff in live action. Anyway, that's a lot of talk about superhero movie type stuff. I could completely understand that some people have fatigue. They're like, I've gotten too much of this. I am still enjoying a lot of it. But I haven't liked all of it. I didn't really care for the last version of the DC connected universe. I did not care for most of that. I liked some of the separate Batman movies, maybe some other stuff, but yeah, I didn't really care too much for Man of Steel and stuff. I like Henry Cavill, but I didn't really care for that movie. So I get it. And I like DC, but yeah, didn't really do a lot for me. Buddy, you are so chatty tonight. Oh my gosh. What else? What else can we talk about aside from comic book movies? I'm trying to think. Hi. Yeah? You are the funniest tonight, bud. He's acting like he's in so much pain. Oh, nobody's playing with me. Oh, my life is so hard. Nobody's playing with me. Hi. You want to come over here? Hey, we got our buddy back. Look at that. Okay. There's a better close-up. Look at this handsome creature. Look at him. What's that? Want to be over here? Too close. Want to be over there? Too close. Guess what? You're a good boy. I like you. He's so funny. I like animals a lot. Just in general, I just got to say I like animals. But I don't think I could ever do a good job working on a farm or something where you sort of have to, maybe slaughter animals or stuff like that. I think I'd be really bad at that. Jack. You are the silliest, bud. I know that you've had food. I could hear that Mom gave you some. Oh, wow. Look at this. You're reading Goodbye, Eri. So good, right? Any of the one-shot manga by Tatsuki Fujimoto are so impressive. Really, really good. I strongly recommend Look Back as well. And when you get time, see the animated movie version of it. Maybe it's because it's about artists, but I felt like that those animators knocked themselves out to deliver a good product. I heard that the top 4 movies from Japan for 2024 in terms of box office were all anime. I think like Detective Conan, Spy Family was maybe number 4. I think Detective Conan was number 1. I can't remember the others. I don't think there was a One Piece movie this past year. But yeah, it's so good. So good. Spectre Man. Was that like a comic that only had like 1 issue or something like that? Look Back is incredible. It's sad, but it's cool. Oh, no, we're not going to have kids. I'll say this. We're too old for that. Yeah. Living in Japan, I'm slightly sick of anime, though. I just kind of too exposed. I can understand that. It's a little easier to be more discerning with what comes over here. And I like to explore a little more than that. But boy, I will say that the year before that, Slam Dunk was so cool. I like that movie. Read Look Back and saw a movie. Got to read Fire Punch. Yeah, I haven't read that one. I hope it's good. Jeez, Jack, you were so wound up. Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations. That's really, really cool. Right. Houses of the Unholy is pretty badass. Oh man, I know. Like you could tell that Brubaker was writing from, some real stuff that we all went through back in the 80s, and probably before that was even more intense, I bet, like the 70s and stuff. I'm probably going to call the show in just a little bit because it's kind of clear that Jack really wants attention and I want to be a good pet owner. He probably wants to play for a little bit. Do you want to play, buddy? He's been a good boy. He hasn't if he wanted my attention in a negative way, there are comics here, and he would like potentially bite them and tear them up type thing because he knows that gets an instant response from me. He's not doing anything naughty like that. He's not pushing things off tables and stuff. He's just meowing loud. He just has a loud meow, but he wants attention. He wants to play, and that's part of owning a pet, I guess, is agreeing to do stuff like that with them, right? Just like if you had a kid, you have to play with them. Tea parties or cats or something. I don't know. All right. I'll call it here then for that. Thank you all for joining me. Oh, wow. Another super chat. I'm rich. Hold on. Reading Far Sector. I picked that up. I don't know. I thought I had it right here. I picked that up in the compact comics format. I like Far Sector. It was really cool. It's what do you call them? It's a procedural. It's a procedural crime story, but it's also sort of a fish out of water, like learning how to work with people in a different environment. So it has several things going on that are really cool beyond being a superhero book. Let's see. Is there anything else being asked? I'm slightly tired that adults in Japan are just watching cheap fan services and nostalgia combat. Dude, that's not just Japan, though. That's everywhere. That's everywhere, just to be clear. And I get getting burned out by that, but it's everywhere. Thank you all. Yeah, had a great show tonight. That was a blast for me. Recharged my batteries. Gonna go put some chapters in this, eat some food, and then come right back here to work on editing because I really want to get this next comic tropes out to everybody as quickly as I can. I'm so excited about it. I hope it does well. I'll end with just another plug. It would be amazing to me if you could make a note to ask your comic book store, order me a copy of Radiant Black number 32. Look, I'm not trying to oversell. It's not like, I wrote half the story. It's just a tiny little backup in the back, but I wrote and drew it, and I'm proud of it. Would love it if you would support me in that way. Thanks, everybody. Double salute? Why not? Keep reading comics. Take care.